Hey fam, what's going on? This is Jessica Pickens. Welcome to Pickens Realities, our blended family truths podcast.
All right, welcome back to this New Year's campaign. No, I'm kidding. Thank you guys for coming back to another episode of Pickens Realities and Blended Family Truths, where we talk about blended family matters because blended families matter.
Yes, we do. And yes they do.
Yes.
Indeed. Yes.
So last year, we talked about a lot of surface level stuff. And this year, we are going to peel back the onion.
Go deeper.
Yeah.
Deeper.
Deep, far, wide,
Ooh.
all the stuff.
A bit uncomfortable, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
All for helping other people.
Indeed. So, this episode today, we are going to take a deep dive into the life of the mother. Oh, by the way, I am, if you don't already know.
Oh, God. Calvin, we almost got away with it. We almost made it, Calvin. We almost made it.
The creme de la creme of the family. I am the greatest. I am her.
Still in 2025.
Still remaining for the rest of our lives.
Reigning supreme, huh? There it is.
Jayla.
And I am the mom. I am Jessica, the mother, the wife, the mom, all of the above.
Awesome. Okay, so
Still
today, right, talk about still the
healing.
cast. 3 years later, we'll see where we're at.
No, in Jesus' name, no ma'am. Not going to be no 3 years. Okay. Let's go.
So today we're going to dive into the life of mom. And not necessarily just her life, but her life that, the part of her life that involves her dad or the lack thereof. So let's take a walk down memory lane and tell me what.
I guess technically involved since dad has passed away.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
FYI.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
So tell me what you remember as far as, a relationship with your dad is concerned.
Unfortunately, the relationship part was more the lack thereof, quite frankly. I loved my dad very much. And, none of this is meant to shed negative light on my father or, be disrespectful in any kind of way. It is what it is. And he and I actually had this conversation directly together multiple times. But I know that my dad loved me. I know my dad loved us the best that he could. I'll say it that way. There was not, the relationship was not the relationship that I desired, nor the relationship that, in my opinion, I believe every child should have with their parent, and specifically as with their father. I mean, it was more the lack thereof. So what do I remember? I remember wanting my dad to be in my life in a way that he was not. I remember missing my dad. I remember being hurt and disappointed because he was not there the way that I wanted. My parents were divorced when I was 4. And I remember a couple of major not good memories when my parents were divorced that indicate why my parents got divorced. As far as I remember being taken to someone else's house and playing with that person's kids. While my dad and the individual...
They weren't your siblings, were they?
No.
Oh, okay.
But, so there are just, there are more growing up. There, unfortunately, are not very, the good memories are very minimal, very few and far in between. As when I got older and I had my own family with you all after marrying your dad, him coming in and spending time and being there, those and making an effort to just be there and spend time, are the best memories that I have with my dad, and I'm very appreciative of that. I'm very appreciative that after I was grown, it got better. The hard part is that, ooh, I cannot cry this early. We
We're
are
a
just
minute
getting
and a half
started. Oh
in.
my
Jeez,
God.
Jamal.
Okay. Sorry, y'all. It's how I process. My dad not being in my life, and then my mom didn't remarry until I was grown, and so I didn't have
A
a
father figure.
father figure. Period. It was a huge, huge gaping hole for me. You know, and I would say for my siblings as well. Um, it was very difficult. It was painful, and it was very traumatic for me. And I would do things to make sure that my mother knew how it impacted me. And unfortunately, I've actually apologized to my mom. You know, when you're a kid, you don't realize that you're in trying to express yourself, that you may be hurting the other parent, you know. But I literally remember packing a suitcase. I know at least on one occasion, it might have been two or three occasions, when I was maybe, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, and saying, I'm going to go find my dad. I want to live with my dad. I want my dad. Because even though my dad lived in close proximity to us,
Never saw him.
he was not, we didn't see him regularly at all. There was no, you know, co-parenting relationship. There was not regular involvement. There really wasn't parenting from my dad, period. There just wasn't. And so, and unfortunately, my dad drank a lot. And it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, and all of a sudden he'd show up in the middle of the night, intoxicated, knocking on the window or knocking on the door. And so, when
Trying to talk to your mama or trying to
just coming to see, that, that's when he would, you know, he was intoxicated, and so, and he had, he lived with someone else, and who then became my she was my bonus mom, my stepmom. He did get married again. But he was coming to see us, you know, so it wasn't like he was just coming to see my mom. No, it was, he was coming to see us, but it would be in the middle of the night, you know, after he'd been drinking. That happened on several occasions. There are just a lot of times where he would promise, you know, he was supposed to come, and he wouldn't show up when he was supposed to come. Like, okay, I'm gonna come. He'd call and I'll be there, you know, just Saturday at 2 o'clock, whatever. And I'd be sitting waiting, you know, almost like a bat, you know, like the movies. Like I lived that, you know, you're sitting and waiting and looking for him to come. And sometimes there are a couple of times when he'd show up when he was supposed to. There are more times where it
he
didn't.
didn't.
He didn't. It didn't happen the way that it was supposed to. So there was just, unfortunately, a lot more disappointment and a lot more lack, than things that I remember. You know, like I solidly remember, you know, and then just different, you know, important milestones in your life where you want both your parents there, regardless of what's going on. I know he made Teresa's 8th grade graduation. He missed mine. You know, different things where, like, when you're getting awards at school, and in spite of the tumultuous and I say tumultuous because not having my dad made my life feel tumultuous. Um,
Do you feel like it was more tumultuous because, like, okay, for example, Isabel's dad is not in her life at all. He's just gone, right? So there is no like constant letdown and stuff like that. So do you feel it was tumultuous because he was there and you knew who he was and you knew he was around and he just was in and out?
I don't even know how to describe the. I think I've said before, even on a previous episode, I feel like I had like a soul tie with my dad. That's just like I was a daddy's girl. Like in that short amount of time, it's like, so I just had this huge gaping hole in my heart, and quite frankly, I didn't feel complete because I didn't have my dad, and and so
I'm not gonna lie, she might get me. My time of the month is coming, y'all. I ain't no sucker, but she might get me this episode.
and so when I look at, even when I look at you and Gabby and the blessing that you have and having your dad be in the house and the relationship that you all have with him and that he's there and active and parenting, and you can call him and ask for guidance and support, and you can talk to him about guys that you like, or what's going on, and because he was your first example of how a female should be treated, by a man. I didn't have that. I didn't have
Yeah.
those things. And I've at least heard it said. I think probably a lot of people have heard it said. You look for or are attracted to men that are like your father. Unfortunately for me, that was kind of true, which was not a
You
positive thing.
literally just answered my next question because my next question was like, I'm a daddy's girl, right? And that's what I wanted for my baby, right? And seeing as though you didn't really have that, like, how did that influence your decisions
It was
on you
it
who you've
was
had children with?
uh well, even before having kids, it just was when you don't. So one, in my opinion, a balanced family is the healthiest scenario for multiple reasons. So having your mom and your dad and having a collective family unit, and and which you can still be functional in co-parenting, even if, unfortunately, if you're never married, like I was a single mom, or if people are married and divorced, you can still figure out how to create a healthy co-parenting environment for the sake of the kids, which is hugely important because that gaping hole of not having my dad in my life, I was so, it resulted in an extreme level of insecurity. I didn't I Because while my mom, again, did the best that she could and taught us we could be anything we wanted to be, and we've talked about this before, we'll talk about it more, but she actually was the other side of, it was the feminist movement. So she was teaching my sister and I that we didn't need a man, and you can do it yourself and you're independent. And while a lot of, I am in total agreement with women's rights. Do not get me wrong. I just feel like, again, the pendulum got swung so far the other way because I do need a man. I want my husband. There are things, and we've talked about this before, but not having my dad in my life and a parent, and not having a bonus dad, or even a mentor as a father figure, a male, responsible male who cared for me in a way that would affirm me and teach me things from a man's perspective, left this huge gap. And what happened with me, is that, unfortunately, I then began to seek male attention in ways that were not healthy. And so, because I felt like originally something was wrong with me, why doesn't my dad love me? Why doesn't my dad want to be a part of my life? What's wrong? Because again, when you're watching other kids that have both their parents, and you're at school events and different things, and you're seeing people, other your classmates show up and both their parents are there, or You know what I'm saying? And you recognize that as a kid. And you go, whoa, wait a minute. I want that. Why can't I have that? And so not knowing, even though my mom, she always encouraged us, always built us up. I can't speak to why that didn't fill the other side of my heart that was had a hole in it, because I didn't have that from my dad. And
I mean, you can't speak to what that's because, I mean, let's speak science since that's your thing. You're created from two sets of chromosomes. So you have him in you, so your molecular structure longs for what you were created by. You
well,
know what
and
I'm saying?
I do. I just, and
So
I'm saying maybe there are some people who, you know, do just fine with being raised by, one parent and not having the other, in my opinion. And
I feel like if regardless if you have one parent or not, I feel like there's whether you grow up to be the best millionaire in your life, there's always still going to be like, dang, I wish my other parent,
I agree,
you know.
because I believe, more than anything, from a faith perspective, it takes a man and a woman to make a baby, and so that child is going to long for the input of both the mother and the father. That's my opinion. Everybody may not agree with it, but that's okay. For me, it had major consequences, not having my dad affirm who I was, and you know tell me I was pretty, and let me know that I was important, and teach me what I should or should not accept or expect from a guy, and to be there to protect me even when I started dating, and like all of that stuff, again, in my opinion, makes an extremely huge difference. And it just had major negative consequences for me in my life. And it I made some very not good choices, and I was allowed to do things very early on, because when my mom was in survival mode. If my dad had been involved in my life and helping parent us as well, and carried some of the weight of the parenting to like back her up, I believe that would have made a difference. But I
So, do you feel resentment towards your dad because it took so long to get some type of relationship?
well, I did. I don't now. I mean, I literally, it's too much to carry, man. It's too much. It's too much. It's too painful. And so you have to choose to make peace with your reality, and choose to forgive and let go of the people that hurt you, for yourself, for your own well being. Because if I continue to hold my dad hostage for the things that he didn't do, it'll eat me up. And so, being who I am, which works okay for me sometimes, and sometimes I know I get on y'all's, last nerve. But one time he came to visit, when he was staying with us in Springfield for a week or whatever it was. And I took him to lunch, and I told him that I needed to ask him a question, and that I wanted to have a serious conversation with him. And Dad was real simple. He wasn't, he was funny as I'll get out. But, and he was like, okay. And I'll never forget, we went to the Chinese, one of the Chinese buffet restaurants. That's what he wanted to go eat. And I said, Dad, I just have a question I need to ask you, because I just need to know. And I was like, I know you don't like to talk about this stuff, but I need you to answer this for me. He was like, okay, what? And I was like, would you say that you weren't there for us as a father because you didn't know how because your dad wasn't a part of your life? Or was it more because you just chose what you chose and you wanted to do what you wanted to do? And he said and responded, I would have to say it was because I chose what I chose.
How did
And
that make you
because I
feel?
wanted to do what I wanted to do. Now look, y'all, you got to be careful what you ask people because you may
You
not
got to
get
be
the answer
prepared for
that
the
you
truth.
want.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that was I was asking. It would have felt better to me to get the other answer. It would have felt more justifiable, if you will. I think I could have accepted that better. But hearing him say he just basically chose. He didn't want to be a dad, so he didn't.
Okay, so boom. That actually plays into my next question. So do you feel like your life experiences would have been any better with him in your life because of the fact that when you said he, you know, indulged in alcoholism, he was between multiple homes with women, you know. So do you
Well,
feel
no,
like
he was when he was well. What he was doing, I can't speak to any of that. I mean, he was when he married my bonus mom.
grandma?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, your grandma Martha. I mean, yeah, look, I can't speak to what he did and didn't do outside of that, but that was his last marriage. I mean, my mom was his third wife. My Martha was dad's fourth wife. Um, and that's they were together until he passed.
At least he believed in
He was
marriage.
he was and again, do I think it would have been better if he would have been in my life regularly if it was a healthy situation? Yeah, but to your point, I think what you're asking me, yeah, I can't speak to.
I mean, like being what his character was, right?
I mean,
And it
if it
wasn't
wasn't,
changing.
oh well, yeah, no. I mean, it. I mean, so for instance, yeah, it's not.
So
Had
so
we been closer, you're saying it. My dad being my dad and who he was.
and
If
right,
we
and who
had
he
been
was.
closer,
Do you think
do
your
you
life
think it would have
experiences would have
been
been better?
better?
Because at the end of the
Ooh.
day, like what y'all be telling me about, you know, Isabel's dad, like sometimes God makes stuff the way it is for the betterment of the child, right? So him being, unfortunately, rest your soul, don't, but like, you know,
He just
him,
wasn't a good
it
dad. I
like
mean,
a
he
top
made his
right. He
choices.
had
He wanted to
toxicity in him.
he wanted
So
to do
do
what
you
he
think
wanted
that?
to do. So yeah, no, I probably not. I don't, if dad, if who he was going to still be who he was, would us being together more have been a positive thing? Likely not, because I would have been more influenced in areas that were not healthy. My dad was a drinker and a gambler, and he was who he was. You know what I'm saying?
A
He enjoyed
drinking, gambling, civil rights
he
activist.
no, the civil rights activist was
Is
my
Nana.
mother.
I know.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. A drinking,
yeah.
gambling,
So
civil rights
you know,
activist.
and look, my did my dad?
Okay.
I mean, he obviously he loved my bonus mom, my stepmom Martha. He loved, my dad was my dad, and he was a funny. He was very funny. And was he, do I believe my dad was nonetheless a good person at his core? Absolutely. Do I think that but he wanted to live life on his own terms. And
Yeah,
I
from what I know of Grandpa Buddy, like from what I remember, like he's definitely, even though he was older, he definitely just gave super chill vibes. He
he
just
was a
goes with the
man. I mean,
flow.
and he was
Like,
handsome. He was out doing his thing, and he wanted to kick it,
yeah,
and I can't,
Jalen,
you
that's
know,
my boy.
and you say something, and he couldn't go a couple sentences before, he was gonna cuss and he was gonna crack up and he was
Yeah.
gonna tell you what he thought real quick. It wasn't, you know what I'm saying, and he didn't. I'll never forget. I growing up, like he wouldn't even say I love. Like I had to force him and box him into it took me, it was after, it was my late teens. I'd say, well, I love you, Dad. And he like wouldn't respond. Like all the way growing up, that's not like he wouldn't say, I love you. Like that was not an automatic thing. You know what I'm saying? And then when I got of age and in my teenage year, I'd be like, I love you, Dad. And he'd be like, okay. And I'd be like, I said, I love
Why do you
you.
think it was so hard for him to say I love you?
You know what? Like my dad was not raised by his like his dad was not in his life. He was not raised by his mother. My grandmother, apparently, from what I understand, both of his parents were deceased when we were born. So I didn't know, you know what I'm saying, my grandparents. He was raised by his grandmother, who had been remarried. So blended family runs like all throughout my family, in different types of ways. But I think that, and again, it's not his side of the family, my family history. I know because of my aunt, his baby
Margie.
sister. Yeah.
Okay.
And you try to, it's
Right. You
important to know
didn't
your
really get
family
close with her until you was
until I
older.
was grown, after I had Jayla, when I went and stayed with her that summer. And oddly enough, the crazy
How did that
thing
even
is,
come
excuse
about?
me, I didn't, for some reason, I didn't really know that she existed until like I was in my teens. Like we grew up in Carbondale again. My aunt Joanne was there with my cousins, cousin William and Greg, and there's Cammy and Kay and Jennifer, but Jennifer was the baby. But I knew about my aunt Joanne. I knew about my uncle JD, my uncle Bill. You never met them. Both my dad's brothers. They both pretty much drank themselves to death. I mean, they were, so alcoholism ran in the male side of the family. And Aunt Margie was the baby. I have no idea. Like, I really was not truly like, I knew Aunt Margie existed. I
Was she
remember going
close to him?
my Uncle
Do you think?
JD's. Well, Aunt Margie is a different, she lived out west for quite a while, but
Right. Well, she was in California, right? All right.
and so closest relative. I remember meeting her, when I went to my dad took me with him to my Uncle JD's funeral. I do remember that because they grew up in New Madrid, Missouri. So, and I remember Aunt Margie and Adam was a baby then, being at that funeral. And was it Uncle JD or your Uncle Bill? It might have been Uncle Bill's. But and my Uncle Bill, my dad's brother, like he came and got us. He lived in Belleville. I remember he came and got me and Teresa and Robert like once or twice to come spend time with him, on a couple of occasions. That's actually when I met one of my other brothers that my dad had before he knew my mom for the very first time. And so, but there was no consistent concerted effort
To
on
keep in
behalf
touch
of
with
my
his family.
dad. Even though like I had cousins in the same town, like how close you are with your cousins,
Child.
and like
Yeah.
y'all are
But
it
buddies.
wasn't like that. And that hurt me, that upset me. And when you're a kid, you don't know what to do about it, but as you continue to grow older, as I continued to grow older, I just realized like this is kind of weird. Like, why are we not close? And so to me, all of that, for me, the type of person I am, family has always been the first and highest priority. The most major thing that I desired was close family. And I just got, because it wasn't how I just felt on the inside it was supposed to be.
So this makes me wonder. I wonder if you guys would have been closer with Aunt Margie at a younger age. Would your relationship with your dad be better? Because Aunt Margie is no nonsense. She gives like, stop playing with me. Like, go over there and do that. We ain't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so I wonder
but you can't make a grown man do something. Adults are adults.
you can't.
No, you can't. I mean, like, would she
You can
have?
make a.
Would she have? You cannot. Like, I can't make. I can't. I can talk to your dad. I can say to your dad, "Hey, I think you should blah 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 blah."
I
Now,
done
because
listen. I
of
done made, and I'm gonna always use Jalen because he's the sibling that we done been through everything. You know what I'm saying? Jalen, I done made that man apologize to people that he wouldn't pee on if he was on fire.
you know what?
No, I'm serious.
Okay. We
I'm
ought not really
serious.
always have that,
But I'm serious because like I feel like you can, and it's they don't want to.
it's because of your relationship with him, right?
But that's what I'm saying with Aunt Margie. Are they close? Were they close?
Were her and my dad close?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I can't answer that.
Because I'm like, she
So
knows
had
all
a
the
different
information.
father. Well, because it's her family. But like Aunt Margie also had a different dad.
Oh,
so from
I didn't know
what
that.
she's told
Okay.
me, yeah. So from what she's told me, they actually kind of used to. She used to get locked in the closet. They used to mistreat
Torture her.
her,
Yeah.
because they felt like she didn't belong
She was
to
an
a sense
outsider.
because she had a different father. Now my grandma, their mother's name was Catherine, hence Teresa Catherine, Bennett. But my grandma
On
their
your dad's
mother-
side?
yeah, on my dad's
Okay.
side, and oddly enough, it was also on my mom's
Wait,
side
so
too.
Grandpa Buddy was
Raised
there
by
when
his-
she was born. TT was born.
yes,
Okay. Was
And
he
me
there
too.
when? Okay, I'm like, and Robert or no?
yes,
Okay.
they got divorced. Robert was not one yet.
Okay. Do you think? I have so many questions.
Well, just
Do you believe that Uncle Robert would still be here had the relationship been better with your dad?
I think so, which was extremely hard. Ooh. So for people that don't know, my younger brother committed suicide 3 days before he was 21, and my dad knew that my brother's struggles in life. My dad carried the weight of feeling like, had he been more involved, Robert may not have made that decision. My dad's health, it was after Robert's death that his health really started to kind of decline. Him and my mother both struggled greatly with my brother's death. I mean, what parent wouldn't struggle with their child committing suicide? My brother didn't know how to be, again, it's it's kind of amazing being a biracial person now, and seeing these commercials where there's a white woman and a black man, or a black man and a white woman, and it's all with these mixed babies on commercials. It trips me out some days, and I just look at it because the hell we went through being biracial kids, being mixed. And my brother struggled greatly with his identity because society was not at all
Nice.
accepting or nice of biracial kids when we were growing up. And Teresa and I identified more with being black. Robert did not. He identified more with being white from the perspective of when you look at his friends and girls he was interested in and
Dawson.
and whatnot.
I'm telling you,
And
Dawson
so,
is Uncle Robert.
It was, he struggled greatly. And when you are a young man, when you're a man, period, and I say that, it is my very strong belief that being a black man in America is like the most difficult thing because of this continued systemic racism, and being biracial, again, where you don't fit in anywhere. Like,
Too black for the white people, too white for the black people.
Man,